Welcome back to the Drive-In Asylum double feature, and we hope you've gotten over the shock of shock treatment. And we're so glad you joined us on the second segment. I'm Bill. My co-host is Sam, and our special guests tonight are Austin Trunick of the Canon Film Guide. Hello, Austin. And a special welcome to Terry Tom from Pittsburgh, and a member of, the second generation, you corrected me, of Rocky Horror fandom. And I'm so excited to get your perspective on shock treatment. Welcome, Terry.
Hello.
I am so excited about this movie because it had been forever since I'd seen it. I didn't remember a damn thing about it. And I loved every second of it. I think it's so good.
It's a great movie. It's far ahead of its time. Far ahead of its time.
We were watching a little bit of it, and Austin said, I agree, that it's, if it wasn't tied to Rocky Horror, it probably would be more well thought of.
I think so, too. I think a lot of fans at the time, especially midnight movie fans, kind of resented the fact of being fed a new cult film, you know. Go ahead, make lines to this one, you know.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing that I used to think about that when I would think of shock treatment. I'm like, well, how can you make something like that happen? How can you say that that's the thing that's supposed to happen? You can't. That's like capturing lightning in a bottle twice.
Absolutely. And, thankfully, video gave it a second life, and, people that enjoyed Rocky Horror could never see it on the big screen could actually go to the video store and rent shock treatment.
I discovered it way after. I don't think my video store, I grew up in Elwood City, a very small town, so I don't think our store had shock treatment. And I discovered it way later. I think when Arrow put a version of it out. Yeah, way late. And I was like, wow, this movie's like, it could have been made today. Like, there's so many things within it that
it absolutely could have. Yeah. Right, and it was all done out of necessity, because they were planning on actually doing it in Denton, Texas, on actual locations. But then there was I think a Writers Guild strike, and they had to put everything on sets and turn everything into mini TV shows. So I mean, it wasn't exactly planned that way, but it told the future anyway.
Do you think it helped?
Yeah,
I think so. I've read the original Brad and Janet show script, and it's nice. It's funny, but I think the fact that they had to make do with what they had made them more creative. I think it was a lot more inspired by doing it all on sets and different shows.
It feels like confined, but in a good way. Like the way, like
and the fact that no spoilers, but that it's basically revealed to be a giant asylum. And I don't think that could have translated as well, just to make an entire town full of crazies if you were shooting on location and outdoors and stuff like that. But
it's interesting. Now, Terry, you were involved in the Rocky Horror Picture Show subculture in Pittsburgh.
Yes.
What year did you first see Rocky Horror Picture Show?
It was a little while before I actually got to see the movie, because it played in Pittsburgh from 1978. It had played as a midnight movie in 76, but it began a full run in 1978, and it stopped in the summer of 1982. So I had just turned 13. So as soon as I was old enough to see it, it left.
Oh,
so I had to rely on Japanese VHS imports and stuff like that. It didn't come back to Pittsburgh until 1988. Came back to the King's Court and played there till 1990 when the King's Court closed up, and that's when we moved to the Hollywood and things got real interesting.
The Hollywood also had a pretty active floor show, didn't it?
Yes, yeah. We actually the members that were, dispersed from the King's Court, we came to the Hollywood and we were putting it together, but we didn't expect the fact that we had moved from a college town to a suburb. So where we were getting college students before, we were getting 13 and 14-year-old kids, and it scared us at first. We're like, okay, yeah, we're going to get busted. we're totally going to be thrown in jail for having these under. But it turns out that everybody loved having us. And the parents actually liked the fact that they knew where their kids were on a Saturday night. So it all worked out.
Before it moved?
What's that?
Was the Hollywood in a different area? Oh, no, that's South Hills Theater, I'm thinking.
Yeah, the Hollywood's always been in the same place.
Yeah.
But
it's funny, though, because I always think of King's Court as like probably the most unique-looking theater that was
it was such a beautiful theater. It was made to look like a castle. I mean, it was brick. There was a suit of armor in the lobby. There were breastplates in front of the lights on the walls and inside the auditorium, and it was completely decked out in crimson, and there was a curtain that we had that opened and closed between the features. And yeah, it was a very nice place to see Rocky Horror. Let me tell you.
Yeah. It's so sad that it's a T-Mobile store now within that same facade.
It's terrible, because
really
all they use is the lobby. The actual auditorium is a storeroom now.
Wow. Yeah, and Beehive ran it for a while. I actually wrestled in the King's Court once when the Beehive ran it. Yeah, and it was very strange to wrestle in that. Not the first or last movie theater that I wrestled in, but it was strange to be in King's Court knowing the history of it.
Yeah,
and what we're doing.
It was originally a prison. Yeah, it was.
Oh, really? Wow.
There were certain places in the bathrooms in the lower lobby where you could look down and see the actual cages in the bars and stuff. And yeah,
wow.
That's.
You sure it was a prison and not a dungeon?
Well, I never had any fun down there, but I can't be sure.
The King's Court. I saw a couple of movies when it was the Beehive. I forget what I saw there, but I just remember that
I saw Godfather there, which was awesome.
Oh my god!
They did a really great job as the Beehive. I wasn't a big fan of the couches and easy chairs, but I enjoyed the programming that they had.
Yeah, it's really sad that it's gone because it was like, wow, like I can just go on a Wednesday night and see the Godfather.
Yeah.
How awesome's that, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, I saw quite a few movies there. I think I saw Taxi Driver there.
Oh wow.
I saw a Warhol documentary there, and Dead Alive played there forever.
Yeah,
Dead Alive played there forever.
I think that
is
I saw there. Now that you mention that,
yeah.
I can't even imagine seeing that on a big screen. That people had to be like losing their minds during that movie.
Well, we played it with Rocky Horror and Shock Treatment one year on a triple feature, and I had to have a friend of mine. I hadn't seen it yet, and I had to have a friend of mine whisper in my ear what was going on because the theater was so loud with people just screaming, trying to come up with anything that they could yell at the screen. So you couldn't hear the movie at all, but it's not exactly a movie you need to hear, I guess.
No. It's funny. I everybody I work with knows that I'm into, obviously in these movies. And one of our social media people, she's like 19. She's like, I'm trying to think of a movie, and she's like, I saw it when I was a kid, and of course it was Dead Alive. And I was like, this is like the most straight-laced person I know at work. And she's like, it's about a monkey that bites an old woman. I'm like, are you talking about Dead Alive? And she's like, oh my god, yes, that's the name of it. I was like, how did you see that? Like,
where on earth did you see that movie?
Yeah, I think her brother was a big gore hound, and he made her watch it, and then she ended up falling. Which it's got that kind of movie that people that don't even like gore movies fall in love with.
Oh yeah,
it's
so
so
good-natured.
ridiculous. Like it's not the kind of gore that is really truly visceral. It's so cartoonish.
Yeah.
At least by the end, you know, like some of like the biting and stuff is visceral. But
she's like, "Well, where do I get a copy of it?" I'm like, it's not available. Like someday, maybe soon, hopefully. And it was just funny though that like it's so weird when someone you don't expect like loves something that you love and like knows all about it.
Yeah.
Like, just from watching this movie so many times as as a young kid. Like maybe 9-year-old you wasn't the right person to watch.
Well, you know the future's in good hands when that happens.
Yeah, it made me really happy to work with her. I was like, this is great. This is a good bonding experience.
That's awesome.
Austin, do you have any perspectives on shock treatment? Like how do you feel about it? Have you seen it, or are you into it?
Yeah, I had seen it, but it was one that I didn't see until DVD era. The one with the red, obviously, image with Richard O'Brien on it and stuff. I had heard about it because I was a Rocky Horror fan, but shock treatment wasn't at our video store, so I'd heard, and then reading online was a big thing. Like everybody on Usenet, if anybody was big into Usenet in the day, the alt.movies.rocky horror, and just always ragging on shock treatment and how bad it was. So it was something that when I finally did get to see it, I was surprised by it not being nearly as horrible as it had been made out to be. I just
I don't know where people are coming from with that assessment. I just don't think it's terrible.
Again, this was just me on like the Rocky Horror News group. So I think this kind of cards are stacked against it there.
Yeah, definitely. It's a movie that if you take it away from Rocky Horror, it plays a hell of a lot better. Just as a regular rock musical, it's funny. It's a funny movie.
It's weird. It's intriguingly weird.
Yeah.
And I kept thinking throughout the whole thing, it reminds me a lot of another movie that was made right around the same time, The Incredible Shrinking Woman.
Yeah.
The way the movie looks, and it's got this like this pseudo Douglas Sirk kind of thing going on with the sets. Shock treatment is beyond Douglas Sirk, but you know the kind of like exaggerated proportions and tones, and it was almost like a comic book at certain times, or like more than a comic book, like art happening on screen.
Right.
And there was a lot of that in The Incredible Shrinking Woman.
It really was.
It's funny too, Charles Gray being in this and Rocky Horror. Like, he's in just as many movies. No, maybe not as many as Donald Pleasance, but he's in as many as important movies as Donald Pleasance, and no one thinks about him in the same way. Probably because Pleasance did more movies in America. But you know, Charles
oh my
Gray
God,
did
yeah,
so much
he was a
stuff.
Shakespearean actor, and and he's known for that, you know.
Yeah, and then this poor Shakespearean actor is having people yell about his balls.
Where's your neck?
While he's yeah.
You know, this is one of those polarizing films, and when I first posted the promotional stuff for this show, all the people came on who were divided. They're like, I hate Rocky, I hate shock treatment, but I love the apple. I hate the crapple, and I love shock treatment. It divided a lot of people. It was interesting.
You know, come to think of it, I never thought back in the day we should have played the apple with Rocky and shock treatment. That would have been a fantastic triple feature.
Yeah.
We
I get upset when people don't like
it. That's everybody, isn't it?
Yeah, oh, I know. It's a movie I defend to the end. I think, Austin, you said it's like the more you watch it, the more you fall in love with it. Like, like the first time you're like, how did they make this? And then after like a couple times, you're like, I really like this. And then you just get super into it, like almost too much into it.
Oh, yeah. Well, Rocky Horror people are a special breed. You know, they really like interactive cinema, and if they can't interact with the movie, they kind of get bored with it. And you know, the apple's a different beast. It's not a film that you become a part of, really. You know, you just have to sit there in awe of what's unfolding in front of your eyes.
It's like drugs on film to me. It's like,
I love the apple.
Canon didn't understand, because by that time you could sort of feed something in at least midnight showings and things like that. And Menachem and Yorm didn't understand that. They had the apple, and when they realized it wasn't going to be Saturday Night Fever, like if they had looked at Rocky Horror or something like that, they might have had a little more success, but they expected it to be a huge mainstream musical and kind of pushed it aside, buried it when it was clear it wasn't going to be that. It was never going to be that.
Didn't he like want to jump off the roof at the initial? Like he wanted to kill himself after first airing.
Yeah, Yoram. Yeah. There's a great clip. One of the last interviews that Menachem and Yoram did together. It's at a film festival, and they're backstage, and Menachem's in very poor health at that point. He barely speaks, but they both tell that story, and it's almost heartbreaking because you hear Menachem thanks Yoram for saving his life there. Like that's not bullshit. He was up on that balcony when everybody booed the apple, and he was going to throw himself off of it, and Yoram talked him down. He said, "There's always the next movie. There's going to be many next movies for him." But
yeah,
there's going to be about 300.
Yeah,
that's such an understatement.
The very poor Montreal Film Festival screening of the Apple we almost didn't get all the films that Golden Globus did with Canon.
Yeah, that blows my head. But he loved movies, and the fact that he saw this as like you said, his Saturday Night Fever, or this was his gift to the world, and the world didn't want it. Yeah. It's a heartbreaking thing.
Yeah, he really thought that the Apple was going to be
blockbuster.
Saturday Night Fever is the closest thing that they would compare it to. Like they expected it to be that sort of level of, like, the soundtrack was what was going to be on the radio for 3 years straight.
But this would not be the last Canon movie where they're like, it's the Star Wars of the 80s. They were always like, we're going to make the next one. You know what I mean? We're going to do it, and even I think Breakin's probably the closest they got, really, right? To be a movie that was in the Zika.
Yeah, definitely Breakin'. That was the one that was on the radio on, number one at the box office. That was the biggest pop culture phenomenon they had. But
yeah, it's like the one time I think they were ahead of the curve versus like trying to find the curve and make it not to make light of the two dance movies that they made after they showed up.
They were about 3 weeks ahead of the curve because they beat Beat Street by about 3 weeks. So
but I love the story, like you talked about too. I think at one point where when they were both trying to make their Forbidden Dance movies, that it was like they had how many editors working around the clock, like, we got to get this, and we got to beat each other to the theaters to make this movie happen. They're Graydon Clark working on the Lambada movie for Menachem, and it's just, anytime he talks about it, you hear him, and it sounds like the most stressful experience. And you wouldn't think it making a Lambada movie that that this took years off of that guy's life, just all the constant pulse rate and everything, the stress he went trying to get that done. You wouldn't think that there would be black magic in a Lambada movie either, but they made it happen. You know what I mean? They figured out a way to make it real. That
could only make it better.
I would argue both those movies are great, and what a double feature that would be. We'll chase away our audience with that.
Yeah.
There was one more thing I wanted to ask Terry about shock treatment. What do you feel was the reaction of fans of Rocky Horror when shock treatment came out? Was it embraced by a lot of people that were into the scene, or
not at first? It I don't want to say it was disastrous, but I mean they tried to release it as another midnight movie, but Rocky Horror was still playing well. So I mean, their choices were to do a double feature, and maybe nobody would stay for shock treatment, or to play it in another theater next to Rocky Horror. But it didn't take off. It just didn't have the same kind of grassroots, let's have a party in a theater type of thing. But like I said, thankfully, Key Video, which was 20th Century Fox's cult offshoot label, put it out on video. So for a time, it was more accessible than Rocky Horror, and I think it got its own video cult, which is appropriate considering the kind of movie
Yeah.
it is.
It's perfect.
It's what was I going to say? I don't know what I was going to say about that, but yeah, I guess it was just ahead of its time. And I have to say, when we hit the Hollywood in 1990, that was our first agenda, was we have to have a double feature with Shock Treatment. And the manager was so against it. That movie's terrible. No one's going to see it. And I said, yeah, but the kids like it. And he finally gave in and did a test run with us. And it was Shock Treatment, Rocky Horror, and the remake of Night of the Living Dead. That was our triple feature that year. And the kids went wild. They thought it was fantastic. And then the next year, it was a little bigger. And then the third year, we played Rocky and Shock Treatment with Phantom of the Paradise. And yeah, that sold out. So that became a tradition. They still do Shock Treatment now, but it was like pulling teeth to get them to bite at it. It's a lot of work.
You changed my life, Terry Tom, with a lot of those screenings. Now that I have you cornered, I have to thank you so much for doing all that stuff that you did in the 90s. But I think the first time I became aware of Terry was I went to a screening of Suspiria at the Rex Theater. And there was this gaunt figure with like long blonde hair there who was like welcoming everybody. And I was like, who is that guy? And that was you, wasn't
it? No longer hairy, no longer gaunt.
But, yeah, you were just like this mythic figure. I was like, oh, this guy is the one who like helped make this happen. And that was when the first time I saw Suspiria on the big screen. Halloween, which fucking changed my life, seeing Halloween on the big screen for the first time. And I was like, oh my God, I finally get it.
Right.
I know why this movie is so good. And it just and Last House on the Left, which the
Tarantino version. Oh,
the reels were out of order.
The people before us spliced reel 2 in the middle of reel 1. So yeah, they're scoring drugs, and then all of a sudden somebody's getting murdered. Then they're back in the city. Yeah, it was a mess. Yeah, the Fulci cut.
That's the Fulci cut.
We did that completely on purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to tell you, that was a lot of fun doing those at the Rex. Once again, I had a lot of pushback for that too. They were like, "Oh, nobody, midnight movies are done. Everybody watches them on video." No. You play these movies and people will come. I guarantee you. And yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, those theaters were packed. I saw Halloween both nights in a row. And it was almost a full house. I went back the second night. I was so blown away. I was like, when's the next time I'm going to get to see it like this? So I just went back and watched it. I could not believe it. It was like watching it for the first time.
Yeah, on a big screen with a game audience, there's really nothing like Halloween. I mean, there's just an electricity in the air. Well, that's very humbling. Thank you for saying that.
Of course. Yeah.
It's funny because I did some PR for the later Hollywood. This is like the 2010 era, way past, yeah. And they weren't showing any horror, and I was like, "Why don't you guys show horror movies?" They're like, "We really don't want that kind of audience." I'm like, "What, the kind of audience that shows up to see movies?"
You don't like money?
Yeah. And then when they did the Phantasm 4K or 2K of Phantasm, they played it like, "Oh, we sold out for every showing." I'm like, yeah, that's what happens. They get to see these in the theater.
You have very loyal fans, and they love coming.
Blood and Black Lace, yeah.
Do you guys want to look at? Go ahead.
Go ahead, Bill. Good.
Do you guys want to look at the ad campaign for the Apple?
Oh, I
Sure.
would love to, yeah.
I know you're dying to see how they marketed this movie in theaters.
Yeah.
Well,
Especially as one of us is sitting in front of one of the ads for the Apple.
yeah, there's a little teaser.
Yeah.
Anyway, here we go. Now, this is a strange coincidence, folks, but this movie hit most theaters on November 21st, just a few days from now.
Yes.
So we're almost at a landmark in the Apple history. So here it is. I think this is from Canada. Yeah, well, there's the leaf. It's confirmed. Yeah, I don't know what kind of movie that they were marketing when I was looking at this. Like, there's this campaign, which looks pretty fabulous, and this is an accurate representation of what you actually see in the film, I think. Because at least you know here that it's a movie where you're going to see some singing and dancing. It's a musical. The Power of Rock in 1994. Forget Nirvana. It was this. The Apple that was going to happen. But then there's this campaign. Like, where was this one coming from? I wonder.
It's a romantic movie. It's a movie about romance between two people that might not even really like each other.
It's very Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, it is.
It's and that logo that they use for the title. It's like it's on the back of a greaser's jacket.
Yeah.
Anyway, here's a better view of it. The future is music, and music is their future. Whoa.
I like that line. I'm not going to lie.
This one kind of makes it look like their picture is on a grill utensil. Like something you would put on your grill. Your hamburgers would go where their picture is. So yeah, I don't know. It's. Do you have any thoughts, Austin, like of how Canon was marketing this film? Like, did they have? How did they approach their marketing? Would you say
They had no idea, and I've got some even wackier ones that I'll show you in a little bit here. But I think they had zero idea what sort of movie they were marketing.
Yeah.
The only thing that's consistent through this marketing is the year 1994. But yeah, you get these two images the most, the one of Alfie and BB just sort of casually strolling together, which says nothing about the movie, and then you get the image of BB on the actual Apple with the disco dancers behind her, and it is
Yeah, see that
it tells you, it describes the movie, but doesn't tell anybody anything about what they're going to see other than
this one
there's
had a
some dancing.
groovy futuristic font going for it here.
Oh, that's cool. I've never seen that one.
They finally committed to the futuristic aspect of this movie.
Especially the starts Friday it keeps up that font. That's really cool.
You are in the future as you look at this.
Yes.
There she goes again. And this is the continuation. Oh, I thought this was an interesting pairing. The Apple and Fang.
In the same font, almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, and I love the Apple, so I feel a movie that does everything wrong with a movie that does everything right together. Like, it's, Fame's kind of like did what they wanted the Apple to do. It was on the radio. It was a big deal for a long time.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing.
So here, this was in LA. This was sort of a notorious moment in the Apple history because you see at the top of the ad, they were giving away copies of the soundtrack. And legend has it that those copies of the soundtrack were being hurled at the screen before the screening was over.
I've heard a similar story about the premiere of Can't Stop the Music, that the screen was destroyed by records being launched.
So Canon actually had to unload those records at many screenings because they thought this was going to be, again, Saturday Night Fever. They refused to find a partner, so they actually formed their own record label to make press copies of the Canon or the Apple soundtrack. And when they realized these weren't going to sell really well, they started shipping them out to theaters to try to unload that stock.
I guess they could write it off then, right?
Yeah.
Promotional material.
Items.
Man, Idolmaker with us. That's another
I
wild
know.
one.
I like The Idolmaker. No one talks about that movie anymore.
Yeah. There was a big lawsuit
Fabian?
over that movie, too. Yeah, Fabian sued because it was too close to
Yeah.
his real life. He has to admit that it was too close to his real life. It seems like a weird lawsuit to file.
Check this out.
Hmm.
Now, Xanadu is the first thing that I think of when I think of a contemporary of the Apple. The
Yeah.
same kind of movie. Not literally, but like the concept.
The
A lot
vibe.
of, yeah. It's sort of mythical. It's sort of disco. It's a little bit
Yeah.
country. It's
One's
a
a
little bit
Greek
rock and
myth,
roll.
one's a Judeo-Christian myth.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What a strange combination of taglines on the Apple. They just
Yeah.
decided to throw several of them on there.
Yeah. I like the Devil of a Good Time and then also Music's the
Yeah,
Future.
it's 1994.
Yeah.
Chris says
Both these movies are going to make dreams come true.
the Apple's more fun than Xanadu. That's a strong statement, Chris Fasonic.
Man, Chris wants to fight you, Bill. That's what that statement sounds like.
I would
with you,
probably.
Chris.
Oh, really? You agree?
I mean, I'm biased, obviously, but
Clearly.
yes.
It's okay, though. That's why we have you on the show. What else is on here? I don't know if I have any different ones. No, we're back to where we started. So, bye-bye ad campaign.
Awesome.
I heard ice tinkling. Does that mean it's time for a cocktail, Sam Panica?
Yeah, and I'll make this one quick because I know Austin's got a ton of stuff to show us. Too.
Oh, yes.
This is the BIM mark, which what else would you call this drink, right? do the BIM, as they say. This, if you haven't seen the Apple, this will all make sense to you. These words and things I'm saying to you will all make sense later. Anyway, here's how to make this drink. It's going to start with 2.5 ounces of apple cider. Oh, boy. Get it? The apple?
Uh-huh.
Oh, boy. Yeah. And then it's also going to have 2.5 ounces of cranberry juice. It's a very fall festive. A Thanksgiving drink. Thanksgiving's coming. You can serve this at Thanksgiving, and people will be like, "Wow, this is a really appropriate seasonal drink." Like, yeah, let's all watch the Apple for Thanksgiving, and then you'll lose your family. It's a movie to send them home with. And then I made this for Bill because I know this is Bill's favorite alcohol. 2 ounces of Fireball.
Wait a minute. When did that become my favorite alcohol?
You said it's one of your Midori's favorite. A couple shows ago, you're like, "Boy, I really like this Fireball."
Yeah, I do like Fireball, but I don't. I wouldn't.
It wasn't an assault. It wasn't an attack.
Oh, it wasn't
Positive.
taken as an. It was just incorrect. I don't.
Midori's your favorite. I know.
There's so
That's
many
the
things
goal.
I like
At some
before.
point, we're going to have a Midori sponsorship, and there'll be a bottle with Bill on it. That's my goal. And then finally, an ounce of grenadine. If you're diabetic, get ready. Get your shots before you drink this one. This one's gonna send you to the moon. This one's gonna send you to 1994. And you're like, I've already been there. If you haven't been to this 1994, you've been to a different one.
Disclaimer: drink at your own risk and drink responsibly.
Yeah. Also, if you're worried about drug references, you might not want to watch this next movie. All right, shake it up. There we go. Perfect.
Look at that fancy glass.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Do the BIM. Hey, Pazuzu, everybody.
Oh, you're ahead of me, Pazuzu.
Terry and Austin, thanks for coming on. This means a lot to me having both of you on. This is great.
Oh, this is so much fun.
Just glad I could make it.
I am too. I'm glad both of you could make it, and of course you, Sam. So cheers.
Yeah, and I will say unabashedly, I love the Apple. I've talked before. It's one of the movies that people want to come watch movies with us. Beck and I usually make them watch it, and if they don't get into it, they're like, "This movie's stupid." Okay, you're not going to get to watch any more movies.
It's the litmus test.
Yeah, this and Faster Pussy, not Fat.
Beyond the
Beyond
Valley of the Dolls.
Oh, yeah.
Valley of the Dolls, the other ones. We've had a couple people watch it like, this movie's upsetting. And I'm like, you're not ready. It's way worse after this, right?
Of course it's upsetting. Isn't that great?
Yeah. It starts upsetting. Someone gets a gun put in their mouth in the first 10 seconds of the movie. Like, and it gets like most movies are like, oh, that's the wildest thing that's going to happen. That movie doesn't stop.
No.
Like, no, it's a Hollywood movie. Like, it's a major studio put it
Yeah.
out.
And they hated every minute of it.
Oh, I love that. Like Easy Rider led to like, I guess we got to get these like that movie and the last movie by Dennis Hopper are my two favorite Easy Rider things because they were like, what are we going to do with this? The last movie is my favorite because Jodorowsky came in and said, this movie sucks. It makes too much sense. So Hopper redid it and made it make even less sense. Oh yes, I love it. Anyways, that's how I feel about the Apple too. It's a movie that really I'm into, and I love it more every time. Everybody has a camel toe in it, male and female put together. There's so much glitter. There's pig people.
Oh, a man is moose knuckle.
Yeah,
it's not camel toe with a dude. It's with a dude. It's a moose knuckle.
You haven't seen the Apple. Yeah, there's so much going on. The songs are catchy. The Metropole from Demons is in it. It's got a lot of stuff happening. It's great. So it's in my top. I always say I love this movie. It's in my top. This one, it's not hyperbole. This is definitely up there. This is in there. So, and I know when I come back and people are like, "Oh, this movie sucks," I'm going to judge everybody, but it's okay. I mean, I like Bruno Mattei, so you can't upset me about movies. I watched the other day. I was working and I watched Living Dead Girl, and I was thinking about like, is this movie making me tired, or is it just life? And then I just love the movie. So that's my NyQuil is those movies. So my movie drugs.
Cinematic NyQuil.
I love it. Gene Roland is like, anytime I watch it, I'm like, I feel like I'm tripping really hard. and it's like stuff like, is time moving slow, or is that just how he makes stuff? And it's like, yeah, that's just what he does. And it's great. So anyway. Super excited for everybody to watch this. Hopefully my enthusiasm comes through.
I'm interested to know in the chat. Let us know if this is the first time you're going to be watching the Apple. And again, this is another one of those movies. Like I kind of feel like I saw it a long time ago, but I don't remember anything about it. So it's going to be like watching it for the first time in my life. The Apple.
I'm excited to see what's in Austin's office now.
Yes, Austin has some stuff to show us. So
yeah, I'll pick and choose my favorites because the Apple stuff. Apple is one of my top 5 canon movies, and I have so much crap from the movie's history.
What's your number one? I'm interested in
Revenge of the Ninja. That's easy.
Oh yeah,
that's easy for me to say. I'll go chronologically. Here's some more weird marketing for the Apple.
Wow.
This is the Variety announcement from 1979. It's actually pre-canon. It's the Golden Globus Productions logo, which you see on here. But it's some weird illustrated art. So it's got Adam and Eve. There's nudity, wrapped in a steak. You can't really make it out too well, but their microphones have little cords that have electrical plugs on the bottom and plug into their belly buttons. And yeah, the tagline is the big science fiction romantic rock opera of the 80s. They got very specific with their hyperbole there. But yeah, this is right before they bought Canon. They were working on the deal, so this was in the works whether Canon happened or not. It was just going to come out as Golden Globus Productions, May 1979. And let's see, where do I grab stuff? They shot the movie. what I have behind me here is the first theatrical one sheets for New York, LA, and stuff got these. But what I love about this is the tagline is "The power of rock, the magic of space." None of the movie takes place in space. It's a little misleading. BB is in outer space here. There's a planet that's also an apple, and the stem is the note. So again, Canon didn't know what they were really selling to people here.
Which makes me love this all the more.
We got one of the soundtracks that wasn't hurled at the at a screen. It's a gatefold album. Again, Canon printed these themselves because they thought they were going to make a boatload of money off of them.
I see great signatures on it.
Yeah, that's Catherine Mary Stewart. When I was out at the Mahoning when they showed it this summer, she signed it to me. She was very supportive. One of the first people I interviewed for these Canon books. So I wanted to go out and meet her in person and talk for a bit, but yeah, I got my copy of the soundtrack signed, and she was surprised because she thought she was the only person that had one.
Oh my God, I love her.
On the same front, Canon also, they didn't think just the soundtrack itself was going to be a hit. This is the 12-inch disco mix of I'm Coming.
That's fantastic.
It is like 40% longer and has 40% more coming. So, yeah, it's if you really love the song and need another like 3 minutes of them,
it's my preferred version of that song, by the way.
Oh, they thought this would be a hit, and that for DJs, which is amazing.
They were a little late.
That's just my favorite things. A few international posters. We have this is BIM Stars. This one is French. Doesn't look anything like Catherine Mary Stewart, but you have the microphone hand coming down from the heavens, and you got the tagline and everything in there. This one is my second favorite. I actually had to go unscrew this from the wall because this one is framed. It's one of my favorites, but to bring it in here, we have this is another French poster for BIM Stars. I'm trying to get it without the glare there, but what's great is you have Boogaloo and all of his cronies up here, sort of pulling strings, which is fun to see. But again, the marketing is so weird for this movie because every country just decided to do it their own way. We have the Spanish lobby card poster here. It's an apple and 3 BBs, the same image of BB 3 times. And
oh my God, this is beautiful.
The lobby card sets, like it's all in here, but these are pretty standard images. What I don't have here is the press kit, which actually has a couple stills from scenes that don't appear in the movie, which is a funny choice to include in your black and white glossies. But mostly there's a shot from the cut, the longer version of Child of Love, where which is clearly I saw someone in the chat mention the Rogue longer print that exists. That's the festival print, and there are a few differences, but one is that the Child of Love is much longer. It's the full song that you get on the soundtrack, while it's only really at the end happens very fast in the movie that we're about to watch, and it makes a slightly more sense in that version, but they just felt the song went on too long. Menachem needed it to be down under 94 minutes, or it was unreleasable in his mind. And there's while we're talking about Rocky Horror, in that print, at the end of Coming, the greats where Alfie is looking for BB. He's like going behind all these doors. There was originally a scene there where there were like 3 or 4 fake outs where he'd walk through each door and it would be BB in bed with a different character from the movie, one of the different bad guys. And it was very much a Rocky Horror thing, like where they're seeing Brad and Janet like trading partners and things like that. And it was very clearly like like lifted from that. And then in the movie, it's just they just see each other and it shatters. But we would have originally got her in bed with Mr. Boogaloo, with both of his goons, so that print gets rented out. MGM has it, and it's just a rental print. And so every once in a while, when somebody rents it, they get that copy. And it's I've never been fortunate enough to see it, but hopefully if it lands in somebody's hands, one of these repertory theaters, they have somebody that records it or something, because that's the only, as far as I know, the only known copy of that festival print, and it's just being rented and shipped around the country, and it'll go missing at some point. Somebody who loves the Apple enough to rent it will.
I've never actually talked about this before, but I have been talking to a friend, and we've kind of been like tossing around this idea. COVID kind of put a dent in it, because we couldn't do it then, but we were talking about doing a triple feature of Phantom of the Paradise, Can't Stop the Music, and The Apple.
Dear
God.
So I don't know like if that would go, how well that would go over in Pittsburgh, but I think people would be into it, and they would definitely come out to see Phantom. Probably.
Yeah, I think it would go well. I do.
And
I'd drive out for it.
Would you really? Yeah. I'm going to hold you to that.
Yeah, no,
absolutely. I drove out for it at Mahoning, so you're only about two hours past there, 2.5 hours. I got family there, so I am absolutely. If there's a screening in that area of the Apple, I will make that drive.
Done deal. And we probably
I'll bring all these posters.
Oh yes, we could set up like the whole lobby. We could have your ephemera out there. That would be amazing. Then maybe we'll get the weird print of it, and you'll get to see it theatrically.
Fingers crossed.
Then we see Austin driving off. Where do you go?
Coming soon to a small repertory theater near you.
It could happen. I mean,
you'd be there, wouldn't you, Terry?
I would hope to be behind it in some way.
Okay. All right.
As soon as you said it, the wheels started turning a little bit. I'm like,
It's not a bad idea.
It's not a bad idea at all.
I shouldn't be talking. I've had too many martinis.
I'm going to replicate the Baskin Robbins flavor that they put out for Can't Stop the Music. Can't Stop the Nuts, which was Baskin Robbins really made a flavor.
Can't Stop the Nuts. I love it.
They also made a flavor for Condor Man, which blows my mind. Like the movie, why would they? They were like not good at picking movies that were going to be a hit. Like we're going to do Condor Man and Can't Stop the Music. That's our. They also did a Bewitched flavor too at one point in the '70s, which is awesome. So
that's terrific.
I imagine it was just some kind of ice cream with nuts, and they just said pour more nuts in there. That's how you Can't Stop the Nuts.
What can't we stop? The nuts, of course.
The nuts. I also love that the Village People had the first single of 1980. That their song, that was going to be like their decade.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I remember that. It was on Dick Clark's Rockin' New Year's Eve.
I was just going to say that. I vividly remember Are You Ready for the 80s?
For the 80s. It didn't include them, but we were ready for the 80s.
All my cousins listened to Black Sabbath nonstop, and I was trying to tell them how good Blondie was, and now all I listen to is Black Sabbath. So who won? Really, that's the story of the 80s.
They can both be good,
They are both good.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a binary thing. I can like both. I can like both disco and Death Ministry.
Yes.
And be fine with it. Yeah.
That's another element of the Apple that was miscalculated. It was disco, like the viability of disco. And do you think that helped sink the movie?
I mean, they definitely were a little too late for that. But I mean, the whole movie's behind the times. You consider like the who saves them from disco is the hippies. So
Yeah.
that's Menachem was really gambling on both of those, disco and hippie culture being like the main forces in 1994, battling for our impressionable youth.
But like Xanadu, at least there was still people still loved Olivia Newton-John. So even, you know what I mean? Even if disco was there, like, well, it's
Right.
Olivia
She was
Newton-John.
marketable.
Well, we're like, yeah, in the Apple, they're like, I don't know what. There isn't really like it's Xanadu is good. It's strange, but it's not mind-bogglingly weird. Like the Apple is like brain assault weird. Like, and it doesn't stop.
Yeah.
Like there's no point of it. Like I'm sure when we come back, a million questions about some of the characters. And I'm sure, Austin, I know you've watched this probably in the double digits, close to triple now. I still don't know. The lady who's the landlady, is it his mom? Is it a girl he's sleeping with? Is it just a lady? Like the movie really doesn't tell you. It's great. It's an absolute movie, like as Fulci would say. It's like it is whatever you want it to be.
Yeah. It's missing a lot of parts that would have helped these stories. There's just so many things they did not film or filmed and didn't turn out and just decided they didn't need.
Yeah, God showing it at the end would make a lot more sense if the song was longer or if the other song cut was like when the first time I saw it and the car showed up, I was like, what? Okay, yeah. I'll see you end.
Who's this character we've never seen before?
Yeah. It is literally Deus Ex Machina. It is like the machine from God. Like it is God himself coming to fix everything for the hippies and the disco people. They have come together.
Terry, it looked like you were going to say something.
Oh no, I'm just enjoying the conversation.
They should have made bin marks for everybody. That's my favorite part of this is like there's a lot of like both these movies are, especially coming from the world of advertising, there's a lot of like commercialism within these movies. And the fact that everybody has to, here's the new mark. Everybody has to wear this. Everybody has to be into this new artist. I know there's a lot of Eurovision in this, and we didn't have, Eurovision wasn't a big deal to us here, but like it became a big deal with America's Got Talent and, American Idol and stuff. So a lot of this feels prescient versus, for an American audience, I think.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I dig about, especially at the beginning. And it's very rock and roll is very much the same movie too. If you get the rock and roll, it's like an animated version, and it did just as well. And by that I mean not at all. At least rock and roll had a Marvel comic tie-in, but that's about it.
Yes, it did.
Yeah, and you and I are probably the only two in Pittsburgh that bought it.
Absolutely. I'm still waiting for that soundtrack album.
Yeah, probably not gonna happen.
I've got
somebody.
Go ahead, Austin.
Somebody asked why it was set in 1994, and the answer is not nearly as exciting. It's once you know it. It was the musical. It was, of course, meant to be a stage musical originally, and it was brought to Menachem, and Menachem said, "Let's not make it into a stage musical. Let's do a movie. It's going to be a movie. It's going to be the biggest movie." But that was written in the early 70s, and it was 1984 in that. And of course, with an Orwell connection, and supposed to be automatically make it like an Orwell type world. And Menachem was adapting it for the screenplay. He's like, "Oh, 1984 is too close now. Just add 10 years." He didn't understand that there was supposed to be a connection with the 1984 meant something if you said that, and it said it was going to be the future. For him, just 1994 was just pushing it back because in 1984 did not seem like the future anymore.
That's the same reason Warren changed the name of the magazine. They had the Creepy and Eerie. They had a horror science fiction book called 1984, and it was like 1982, and they're like, maybe we should move this ahead 10 years because our stories aren't 2 years in the future. They're like hundreds of years in the future. So I wonder if that was a problem a lot of people are starting to run into. They're like, oh, this happens all the time as I watch old science fiction now where it's like 1996. The world is falling apart. Yeah, okay, cool.
I've got this sneak preview of the new issue of Drive-In Asylum, the cover I've been working on. I'm so excited about this issue. It's going to be one of the best that we've ever done. I've got an amazing feature on an obscure movie called My Brother Has Bad Dreams, aka Scream Bloody Murder. And I've got 2 actors from the film and the director, Robert J. Emery, who also directed Ghetto Freaks. If you've seen the timer video of all the hippies dancing, that's from Ghetto Freaks. It was actually a movie called Sign of Aquarius that Bob did. And I talked to him about that movie, about Scream Bloody Murder. It was just amazing to speak to him. He's a fantastic guy. It's an interview with all 3 of these fine folks, and it's going to be a profile of this movie, My Brother Has Bad Dreams. We watched it on the show here. We actually did a program like last year where we watched it, and it's one of my favorites. Also, Sam landed an amazing interview with George Barry, the director of The Deathbed, the Bed That Eats.
Oh man,
Amazing. We just did,
the nicest guy ever.
oh
Amazing.
yeah, he's got to be so cool. And this is sort of like the thing where it's a kind of movie that people laugh at, but if you actually watch it, it's a beautiful film. We did it on the program here. It's just fucking amazing, and I'm so glad to have him in the magazine. Also, Jeff Lieberman.
Sunshine.
Yeah, the director of Squirm, Blue Sunshine, Satan's Little Helper, so many amazing films. Steve Wilson submitted a review of Blue Sunshine, and I didn't realize this when he first submitted it, but it has actual interview footage or interview content footage. Everything's a movie with Jeff Lieberman. So I'm excited about this. It's the first time I've ever had original content for Jeff Lieberman in the magazine. Although I will tell you that we did a review of Squirm not too long ago. Bradley Steele Harding wrote it, and Jeff Lieberman found it online and wrote me. And he's like, "Can I have a copy of the magazine?" I was like, "Jeff Lieberman, you can have as many copies as you want." And I met him shortly after that at the Mahoning Drive-In. They did a screening of Squirm. He was there signing autographs in the snack bar, and he had an actual rubber worm from the set of Squirm, them in a jar.
Oh. Also, George Barry emailed me today. I sent it to you, Bill. He loved the issues that you sent, and he was so excited about them. So it was crazy talking to him because he remembers every movie that he saw at the Fox Theater in Detroit, including like tons of like movies that I didn't even realize would have played theaters. You know what I mean? He saw the Ghastly Ones in its first run and stuff.
Oh
like
my
that. So
God!
Yeah, a super fan of horror even before he made that movie. So it's pretty awesome because my biggest thrill about Deathbed obviously is the mansion that it was shot in, and what's the story of this giant mansion with a pipe organ in it, and it has the largest pipe organ in the U.S. inside this house. There were a couple bands that lived in this house for an extended period of time, and he kind of explained how could this happen in a really affluent neighborhood in Detroit because they were trying to get rid of the house and get it destroyed. They thought he was shooting a porn there, and he's like, "No, we're just shooting a horror movie." Like, you can shoot porn here if you want. He's like, "No, we're making a horror movie." So he said, "I think my movie was too safe for them," which is really cool. So, and it's really interesting, especially because it'll be part of the interview. But he had no idea that Deathbed was even out in the world. It got bootlegged by the company that he was going to make it. It was too expensive to put credits on it. He decided not to do it. That company literally ran it, copied it, and started putting VHS out. He had no idea until 2004. He was on a message board, Scarlet Street message board online, and saw somebody discussing his movie and had screen clips of it. And he's like, "How the fuck did they have my movie?" And people are like, "Oh, all sorts of people have your movie." He was looking up something about 50s TV shows on it, and he had, and that's how he got. And then Stephen Thrower found him from that board, got in touch with him. He's in Nightmare USA, and then the movie got picked up on DVD. So that's how it happened. He's in his like late 70s, but really remembers all of it. And we talked for about 2 hours. He goes, "Okay, I'm exhausted. I can't talk about movies anymore. Goodbye." That's the end of the interview.
A true
So,
artist.
pretty awesome. Exactly how I wanted it to be. Yeah. My favorite part of the interview is he said he was talking about how it got picked up in Europe because one of Jess Franco's Alain, I can't remember his last name is, actually bootlegged it in Europe. And he said, "Sam, do you know who Jesus Franco is?" And I was like, "You don't know who you're talking to, a fucking maniac." And he was like, "Oh, you like his movies? Like, you really like his movies?" I'm like, "Yeah." And then that was a lot of the conversation. So I thought, he's like, "I don't really get them, but okay." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, I'm also nuts." So yeah, it was pretty fun.
That's
But,
like saying to Terry, "Have you ever seen this movie called Rocky Horror?"
yeah.
Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Sounds horrific. I've
It's like
never heard
Carol
of that.
Monroe said, Carol Monroe said, "Tim, do you like Giallo?" And I was like, "No." So yeah. But
Do you like
anyways, I'm
Hitchcock?
super excited. I'm writing it out now, Bill, and it was just it's weird. And I'm sure, Austin, you've been in this world too. Like, it's like when you like obsess about a movie and then to finally talk to somebody that it was, they did it, and like maybe it was. You said before, it's like these people aren't going to be here forever, so to capture some of these memories of something that they did 50 or 60 years ago is wow. It's awesome,
Yeah,
Terrific.
absolutely.
Yeah. I said, we showed Deathbed on our show. He goes, "Oh, did people like it?" I'm like, "Yeah, people loved it." He's like, "Did
Yeah.
everybody love it?" I'm like, "No, not everybody. Enough people loved it." So yeah.
Not everybody can like everything,
Exactly.
No,
Be a boring world.
I think that's my joy of movies is like, I feel very defensive about some movies or some directors because I'm like, no one's going to like this, so I have to like it and love it.
Yeah.
I'm glad that's why I loved finding Austin's books because I was like, oh, finally someone understands that canon isn't a punchline. It's like that there's great stuff that came out of canon, not just. And I'm not going to say not just ninja movies because those are my favorites. But, people are always like, "Oh, well, they made Over the Top." I'm like, "Yeah, so that's a great movie, So
Yeah.
I think
I'm excited to watch the Apple with you guys. So I can't wait.
Andy's getting more attention than you are, Sam, in the chat.
He will tell you all about. He's like, "God, watch the fucking Apple again." That's what that yarn was for.
Andy's already bored with the apple.
Cats are high once or twice. It could last for years. I've read. So you can imagine that Andy's probably been high since he was a kid, and now he's been forced to watch the Apple again.
That's why Andy and I are like so copacetic.
Yeah. Also, he looks like Jonesy from Alien, so I know that's one of the main reasons. You love
I know. I want to see him hiss just once, like he does in that scene with Harry Dean Stanton.
Austin, there's some love for Avenging Force in the chat, so that's
Oh yeah. Avenging Force is excellent.
yeah. It has the best villain I think in any canon movie. It's probably my favorite.
Vince wants
villain.
part 2.
Well, Avenging Force is a part 2, right?
Yeah, technically, it's technically a part 2 that's a prequel.
Yeah, that's my favorite canonism. It's like Missing Action is kind of a prequel to a movie that wasn't meant to be like Missing in Action gets crazy.
Yeah.
It's Demons level trying to explain all these sequels. Crazy.
Yeah, Avenging Force. They could have just changed his name and.
Yeah, exactly. And how many people even picked up on his name that it's the same character?
Mm-hmm.
Well, obviously.
They sold it as Hunter, so Night Hunter.
Yeah.
So that I think they kind of maybe they felt they were stuck with the Matt Hunter name.
Yeah, and David brings up my favorite canon line, obviously from 10 to Midnight. That's my favorite Bronson line. I yell it all the time. Whenever I'm like, just occasionally say, "You know what this is for?"
Mm.
It's for
Pick up on
jacking
my
off.
computer mouse.
Can you be more specific?
That movie is full of awesome Bronson lines, like his knife is his penis.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's got a lot of good stuff in it. 10 to Midnight.
Our guests tonight are Austin Trunick from the Canon Film Guide and Terry Tome, who was so influential in changing my life with local screenings. What was the company called, Terry? FPS?
FPS, yes. Frames per second. Film community.
Right.
Yeah.
I still have a couple of your flyers that you
Do
probably
you?
printed yourself.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, we would go to Kinko's all afternoon and make the ad for the movie 2 weeks ahead, and then we'd go down for the midnight show. That was the big day. Lots of fun, lots of great memories.
Good times.
Trucking
After I
through
went,
the south side with huge film cans in my hands.
yeah, that stuff was all on 35 millimeter. Like
All 30. Well, the one exception was the Rex also played the Gay and Lesbian Film Festival, so they had rented a 16 millimeter projector. And I said, 16 millimeter, huh? I can play Dario Argento's Inferno. We have a 16 millimeter print of that. So that was like the only time we actually went 16 millimeter, was so we could have the North American premiere of Inferno.
Oh my God. Sam is dying. I can
Yeah,
tell.
I'm really sad.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. But we only had one projector, and it was 3 reels. So we had a little intermission. We had 2 intermissions in the movie where we would just put the soundtrack music on and keep the house lights down, and then we'd put the movie back up, and it worked.
Oh man, that's one of my many meditations. I meditate sometimes on people that found Inferno and have no idea about Argento, and then are confounded by that movie. Like it's on movies. Like there have to be normal people that are like, what? Who is? What is this kid doing in class? And this woman is.
What
like,
am I watching?
Yeah, what are we watching? And like, it's even like it's like people are like, yeah, I know Suspiria sometimes doesn't make sense, and he's like, cool, I can now do that, and he does. It's great.
Yeah, it's
like,
fantastic.
Yeah, it's the most dreamy movie ever. I love it. So these are the weird things. I should do a whole book. Things Sam meditates on. That's my next book. Like he's insane. Like what?
Matt, if you want my shirt, you're going to have to talk me out of it.
Ooh.
We'll arrange it on my OnlyFans page.
Yeah.
Now, I am going to do a reprint of this shirt because so many people mentioned that they want a copy of it. So, yes, I will do that eventually. I promise. I've been promising it for probably about a year now. So sorry. But,
If the blanket can come out multiple times, another shirt can come out. So
it's a risk. Like the last time I printed a bunch of them, nobody wanted them and nobody bought them, and I had them for a long time. So maybe I should do a pre-order.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Terry, Austin, are you going to be here for the 3rd segment, or is this adios?
I'm probably going to get raptured with the hippies. To be honest. It happens.
I gotcha.
Yes, I probably am going to have to wrap this up just because it was such, not short notice, but it was, still have things to do before I go to bed tonight. So I have to leave you, but I'd love to do this again.
Yeah.
This is a lot of fun.
You can be on anytime you want, Terry, and same thing for you, Austin.
Thank you.
You'll come back and
Fantastic.
join us, and thank you for sharing all that memorabilia that you have for the Apple.
Oh, my pleasure.
It's amazing.
Like I said, I will throw it in a box and jump in the car if you guys ever get a showing going.
Terry and I are going to have to collaborate on it, I think.
I was just going to say, you never know. You never know.
I dropped the link numerous times into chat, so if you don't have the link to the Apple now, I don't know what else. Look it up on Tubi TV. Come back after the movie. We'll have more to talk about on the Drive-In Asylum double feature. And many thanks to Austin and Terry for being on the program.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
It's wonderful being here.
Absolutely. Thank you.